And I hope it's not too noisy in the background. It's garbage day where I live, so garbage trucks have been going by, but that's what it is working from home, so we're all in the same boat. I am, someone's messaging me about laptop, absolutely. And I'm going to address that because that's a big issue for everybody right now. Most people are using laptops at home. So thank you for messaging me. I will cover that. All right, people are still signing on, but it's, I'll give it one more minute. We'll start right at 1 o'clock. All right, let's begin. So thank you for joining us today at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. I'm Iris Sokol. I'm a health and wellness consultant and certified ergonomist. I've been in the health and wellness industry since the 80s. And this is the Living Well at Home series. Just so you know, other programs are coming up every Wednesday at same time and all the way through the first week in June, and consistent classes that you can take advantage of, which are fabulous. Yoga on Mondays and Wednesdays at 5:15, and Zumba on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:15. So you can go to harvardpilgrimhealthcare.org for further information and to sign up. I am going to be talking about ergonomic wellness, and I'm calling this the home edition. So we are all in a tough place right now. So many of us are working from home and not having the normal workstation. So I'm going to cover everything from head to toe of how you can prevent muscular aches and pains and injuries through good ergonomic principles. So let's get started. And feel free, let me go through the presentation, and then I'm going to save plenty of time for questions at the end that you can ask me through the chat. Hang on. So basic ergonomics that we all need to know. So ergonomics is the prevention of injuries in the workplace. My specialty is office ergonomics. And what ergonomics is all about, it's really the improper fit of how you're working and how you're using your body that creates strain and fatigue of your spine and your supporting muscles, which then go and create injuries. And the tough thing is that ergonomic injuries are preventable and they're cumulative. You're not gonna hurt or feel pain after a few months or a year and even a few years of working at a workstation. But down the road, if you are working in an unhealthy position or not using good ergonomic principles, that's when injuries can start to occur. Just like runners who for years and years and years go out and run and they never stretch afterwards. So they're leaving the tension built up in those muscles, and then all of a sudden one day they pull an Achilles or pull their calf muscle and they're like, oh my goodness, how did this happen? Well, it's from the accumulation of the lack of stretching that caused that injury down the road. And most ergonomic injuries come from either the improper use of equipment or, more importantly, from poor body mechanics or no body mechanics. I like to use the example of I had a client where everything was adjustable, perfect ergonomic workstations, and people were still injuring themselves. And what we found, it was because people were still trashing their bodies with how they sat and how they adjusted the equipment. They weren't adjusting the equipment. So it really comes down to yourself and how you're utilizing good body mechanics, and then also adopting good ergonomic principles. So think about this. Your posture, your muscles form around the posture that you keep. So think about that for a moment. However you're sitting, those muscles are forming around that posture. Just like when you exercise, if you were doing bicep curls, right? And you're holding a weight and you're doing this for time and time, and then all of a sudden your bicep muscle starts to change shape and develop. Well, the same thing happens to your muscles around the posture that you're keeping for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So let's just use this posture as an example, slump sitting. So if you're sitting slumped over, what's happening right now when I'm sitting like this is my anterior deltoid is getting very tight. My chest muscles are getting very tight. My middle back muscles from sitting like this are getting overly stretched right between the shoulder blades. And those are supposed to be engaged to keep you upright. Those are supposed to be activated. But if you're in this posture, they're not. You're not using your core if you're slump sitting. Everybody, I want you to just slump sit for a minute so you can feel this and feel what happens. You can't use your core and be in this position. And ideally, with good ergonomic posture, and I'm going to show you how to practice this, you want your core engaged. So you can prevent these injuries and the aches and pains and muscular tension that builds up. Think of the muscular tension that builds in your body just from this one example of one bad posture. By paying attention to your body while you work. Just as many of you pay attention to what you eat and exercise, working on your posture and adopting good body mechanics is another key element of your overall health. And the whole day is an opportunity to be aware of and to improve your body mechanics in a more proactive, healthier way. You're going to start to notice, I hope after this seminar, you're going to start to notice your body more. You're going to start to notice other people's posture more. You will maybe be cooking and all of a sudden you'll go, oh, I can use my core here and pull up tall, or you'll notice how you're sitting at your workstation. So let's talk about spine health. Compression is the most common cause of back pain. And whenever we sit, our vertebrae compress our intervertebral discs, which are the shock absorbers for your spine. When we stand up, we relieve some of that compression. But from how much we're sitting today, there's a lot of compression on the spine. You might sit to commute to work, sit at your workstation for however long, commute back home. We sit at night, we watch TV. And what's really needed to help balance that and balance support for your spine is a strong core. And I don't mean six-pack, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just a core that is being used and engaged during daily use. All your muscles work opposing each other. So my bicep muscle allows my hand to come to my shoulder. My tricep allows me to do the reverse action. Well, your back muscles are always contracted to keep us upright. And what's opposing your back muscles are your abdominals. And if those aren't pulled in, then your back muscles are taking all the abuse and the strain in your body. What really relieves pressure on your muscles from prolonged sitting is movement. Everybody will ask me, oh, is sitting the new smoking? Well, it's not ideal to be sitting all day, of course, but really what's the new smoking is lack of movement. You're not tethered to your chair, and the rule is for every 50 minutes, 50, of either sitting or standing, so any static posture where you are really not moving that much, you need 5 to 10 minutes of some consistent movement to break up the muscular tension that develops from a static posture. So what I like to tell people is set a timer, watch your clock. So after 50 minutes, get up, take a 5-minute walk somewhere, 5 minutes back, and you're good to go. And think of how that adds up over the course of the day. Even just 5 minutes out of every hour in a 10-hour workday, you've got almost an hour of activity you've put in, and all activity helps toward our overall health. You need weight-bearing movement also for generating good bone health, and that helps prevent things like osteoporosis. And good body mechanics and posture is crucial to your spine health. So here's some the most common unhealthy postures. I'm sure you're laughing at a lot of these or noticing ones that maybe you've done. Head forward is a big one. If your head is out here, look at my head this way. Your head weighs on average 10 to 12 pounds. And if it's out here, it's inviting your cervical discs to bulge. Your earlobe should be aligned over your shoulders. Looking up or looking down, again, that is not an ideal and a very unhealthy posture. Instead of staying neutral, where the earlobe should be right over your shoulders. I would like you all to do this. Raise your hands above your elbows and feel what happens. Most likely you're feeling a little bit of tension in your neck and shoulders because that makes you raise your shoulders and tenses your neck. Perching on the edge of your seat. A lot of people will perch because they haven't gone and looked at all the adjustments that your chair might have and made those to fit the chair as best as possible to your body. You always start at your feet and you work your way up and you want your feet flat on the floor and your knees in line with your hips. And I'm going to go into detail each section of adjustments for the head, the keying, and the chair. Sitting back on the tailbone like that, that's another common unhealthy posture. That puts a lot of pressure on your lumbar and on your lower back. Slump sitting, like I showed you earlier. Gravity's pulling you this way. That's another common posture. Legs crossed, right? I'm guilty. I love crossing my leg. I have to constantly check myself to uncross it. If you're gonna cross your legs, try to do it at the ankle and not one knee over, because that's creating an imbalance. When you think about it, if one leg is on top, these muscles are lengthening, and the leg on the bottom, these muscles are shortening, and that's starting to create an imbalance. Same thing if you tuck a foot underneath yourself. I know this feels great, but you stay in that posture for a prolonged period of time, and it's the same issue. You're creating an imbalance. You're also, if you sit like that, you're overstretching the ligaments in your knee. Obviously leaning to one side, leaning forward. And the biggest issue is not having your core engaged. So here are the body mechanics. Whether you're sitting or standing, you want your shoulders down and relaxed. And it really takes starting to notice. You'll start to notice now, oh, my shoulders are tense. And just keep coming back to trying to keep them down and relaxed. You want to think of your neck elongated, like the top of your head reaching toward the ceiling. I mentioned earlobes aligned over the shoulders. Using your middle back muscles, here's a really simple exercise for you to do to strengthen the middle back muscles. It's going to seem silly, but it works. I'd like you to bring your arms up, slightly in front of your face. Now notice, most likely, the shoulders came up with the arms. Bring your arms down. Now do it, but keep the shoulders pressed down as much as you can. So bring your arms up. Press your shoulders down, and just holding your arms up for 30 seconds, a minute like this, you are engaging those middle back muscles and strengthening them. So you can do that simple exercise to help with that. And that will help you use those middle back muscles to keep your chest open, your sternum lifted, your shoulders down. Think of buttons popping on a shirt of an image of how you want to be lifted. For your lower body, you want to sit up tall using your core and on your sit bones. You have bones on either side of your buttock. You want to be up on those sit bones. You want to have space. This is really an important thing to do. So you want to have space between the bottom rib and the top of your hip, at least 3 fingers distance. So I'd like you to try that right now. I'd like you to let your body cave, just slump. Now lift yourself up using your core, and now you should feel space between the bottom of the rib and the top of the hip. And that's what you want to shoot for. And now if you kind of rock from side to side, you should feel those sit bones. And this is what you want to work toward for a good posture. So you can do core exercises while you're working. Just using your abdominals, just engaging them. And if any of you took music lessons, You were taught to keep your belly muscles pulled in for power and breathe from the rib cage. So just using your core is going to help, just using your abdominals is going to help you build tone in the muscles, which will then help support your spine. Sitting, I mentioned lifting up off your sit bones, space between the bottom of your rib, top of the hip. Your body naturally zips up when you do this, and we're going to do this for 1 minute. So starting now, we're going to do this for 1 full minute, sitting up nice and tall. You're up on your sit bones. You've got that space between the bottom of your rib and the top of your hip, chest open, shoulders down. And what I like to suggest is you try to do this for 1 minute out of every hour, and then forget about it. And then gradually build up to 3 minutes, and then to 10 minutes. And over time, give yourself a few weeks, because any kind of behavior change, the best way to make a behavior change is small incremental steps and over time. And when you get to the point where you can sit like this for 15 minutes, you're going to catch yourself in a bad posture and you're going to self-correct. You can also, okay, so that was 1 minute. That's harder than it seems. One other thing you can do is I'd like you to put your hands on your belly. And what you're going to do are just some abdominal contractions. So with your hands on your belly, you're going to inhale and relax your abdominals. And as you exhale, you're going to pull your belly muscles towards your spine as you let the air out. Think of pulling the belly button to the back. So let's try that again. Inhale and relax your belly. Exhale and pull the belly to the back. Do that one more time. Inhale, relax. And exhale, pull the belly to the back as deeply as you can till all the air is out. And relax. Do those for however many repetitions you can throughout the day. That again will help build nice tone in the muscles. So let's go through the ergonomic guidelines for your whole body. So for the seated position, I mentioned earlier, adjust the chair as best as you can. You start at your feet, you work your way up, and try to go through all adjustments that your chair might have, and make the chair as comfortable as you can for your body. Footrests can help tremendously, and they're an inexpensive fix. You can find them online, as well as a lumbar support for the back of the chair. If your chair that you're using at home doesn't have a great lumbar support, you can, for $30, $40 online, buy one that will go to the back of your chair and give you better support. Your monitor, this is so important for the neck and the shoulders, that your monitor is in the correct position. The height of the monitor should be that the bridge of your nose is in line with the top of the text of whatever program you tend to use the most. And what you're shooting for is that neck alignment of the earlobes right over the shoulders, not looking up and not looking down. And same thing with angling side to side. The monitor should be square between your shoulders, so that you're keeping your head straight on. The distance of your monitor should be about 22 to 24 inches away from your face, which is the length of most people's arms. You should be able to reach out and barely touch your screen. Very often people have a monitor too far away, and that's gonna make you lean in, or too close, and that's gonna make you lean back. To address lighting and glare, it's actually easier at home than sometimes in the workplace, because in the workplace you have overhead lighting that has to stay on. But at home you can highlight your desk area with a nice desk lamp, turn off your overhead lights. I have mine on right now, so the office has better lighting. But that can be a very soothing way to work and not have glare. And if you need to use a document holder, you use one either right in front of your screen or to the side of your screen, and you put it on the side of your dominant eye. And the way you find your dominant eye is you make a triangle with your fingers and put something in that triangle, an object far away. And then close one eye, and then close the other eye. And the eye that the object stayed in the center is your dominant eye. And that's the side you'd put a document holder on if you need to use a document holder. So guidelines for keying and your hands, centered just like the monitor. The keyboard should be centered between the shoulder blades and the legs. There's little legs on the back of a keyboard. Those should be down. Your arms should be at a 90-degree angle. And this is so important. What you want, if you're looking at me from the side, is the elbow is directly below the shoulder, and then the wrist is lower than your elbow, and your fingers are in a downward slope when you're keying. And that is going to allow you to keep your shoulders relaxed. So anytime the hand, just bring your hands up for a moment. We did this earlier. You'll feel tension in your neck and shoulders. As soon as you lower your hands, the weight of your arms allows you to keep your shoulders down. You shouldn't see any wrinkling in your wrists when you're keying. And using a wrist rest and a mouse rest works really well to help for contact stress, so you're not rubbing your palms against a hard surface. And I prefer gel, and again, these are inexpensive and you can buy these online. So the ergonomic guidelines for mousing, the distance from your body is you want to make a V with your elbows touching your sides like that. And then this is the space that you can mouse in. As soon as the elbows come away from your body, you're too far away, and that's where you're going to get excessive strain in the shoulder. So elbows close to your sides, mousing within that V space, limiting the movement as much as possible. And I know a lot of people think this is really impossible, but if you can, try to alternate what side you mouse with. I'm a lefty, and I now can mouse right as well as I can mouse left. So it also is a great brain exercise. And you can train yourself slowly. Try 1 hour on the right, 1 hour on the left, or gradually half a day on one side, half a day on the other side. A lot of people will ask me about alternative mice, and if there's any one particular one that will prevent injuries. And the research shows that no, there isn't one particular mouse that will prevent an injury. But what research does show is if you are using one particular kind of mouse and you're starting to develop pain, swap to a different style. So if you're using a regular mouse, go to a trackball or a touchpad. So here we go, the laptop, right? Look at her. She's, this is what so many people wind up doing. They take their laptop, plunk it on a desk, use the keyboard, and you wind up like that. Look at all that posture problems that she's developing there. Her head's forward, her shoulders are tense, her hands are higher than her elbows. So it's the most fabulous thing for convenience, but it can be one of the worst things for your body, depending on how you use it. So the safest way to use your laptop is a docking station and a wireless keyboard and mouse. And if you can't have a docking station, then what I like to suggest, and I have one here, is a lap desk. So these you can buy, this one I bought on Amazon. This is by Lap Gear. And the way you work is you recline. So you put your laptop on the lap desk. I'm gonna just show you, like that. You recline with your legs up on something. So if your legs are up and you're reclining, look what happens with my hands. They're now, look at that nice 90-degree relaxed position I have for my hands. And my head isn't so bad. I'm not ideal, but I'm not like that. I'm able to recline and relax back, and my eye line is looking down at the monitor. So this is another way. I know it seems crazy to be suggesting reclining, but if you can't have a docking station that raises your monitor up of your laptop with a wireless keyboard and mouse, you can't use your keyboard on your laptop with it raised, this is a nice alternative. And again, not expensive. These are between $35 and $50, depending on how fancy you get with a lap desk. So for standing, if you're standing if you're alternating or if you're standing, the same rule applies for standing or sitting of 50 minutes with 5 to 10 minutes of movement to break up the tension that can build in the muscles from that static posture. Total adjustability is great, but standing is not the solution to sitting. It's just an alternative posture. But where there is research that is showing that if people stand all day, it's creating other kinds of problems. People are getting varicose veins, falling arches. If you're not standing properly, people are developing hip problems because people tend to kind of sink into one hip when they're standing. So the same thing applies when you're standing. You need good posture. And good posture when you're standing is the knees are bent, the belly muscles are in, the body is lifted, and then everything else is the same in terms of where your monitor height needs to be, where your hand height needs to be for when you're standing. And the other equipment that's important that very often is neglected are good shoes for standing. People will tend to just stand up in whatever they're wearing, but shoes have a certain purpose. And there are shoes that are better for standing, like what nurses and doctors and chefs wear. Clogs or a cork-based shoe is a very good supportive surface to stand on. You can also buy an anti-fatigue mat to stand on. What I like to see people doing who want to stand is alternate. Sit for a while, stand for a while. No matter what you're doing, sitting or standing, every 50 minutes, get some movement. So here's an ideal setup for a workstation of that you'll be able to take a look at this later, but look at all the alignment, the head alignment, the arms, chair supporting the body. So what are you doing with your body right now? I know you're probably sitting up a little, I hope you're sitting up a little taller than you were at the beginning, but we have become a generation of slumpers. I just see it everywhere. I took this picture. This woman was at a mall and she sat like that for half an hour. And look at her posture now that we've talked about posture and body mechanics. She's rounded, shoulders are forward, her head is out here. She's sitting back on her tailbone and putting pressure on her lower back. This is someone that had total adjustability at their workstation, but they didn't apply any of it. And now you can notice some of the things we've talked about. Her monitor is too low, she's perching. Her legs are up on her keyboard, so that's angling, making her hands angle up. This is a client of mine, and this was the before picture. She's a very petite woman. She was in a very hard chair. Her hands are way too high. Her head is forward and neck arched. Shoulders are tense. The monitor portion, because she's using a laptop right on her desk, is too low. And this I just put in because this I thought was hysterical, this person working on a beach. So, take more than just a break. For every 20 minutes of keying, you want your hands off the keys for just 1 to 2 minutes. And when you talk on the phone, that's a great time to move around and walk wearing a headset. Wireless headsets, one of the best investments you can make. Blinking and refocusing, this is important. It's a little harder to do in a home office, but if you have a window, I have a window to the side of me. Every once in a while, look out at something as far away as possible and blink and refocus. We've already talked a lot about for every 50 minutes of sitting, you want to get up and move for 5 to 10 minutes consistently. Drinking lots of water will not only lubricate your joints, but it will help tremendously with making you get up more. And it takes 30 days for something to become, at least 30 days for something to become a habit. I think we get so impatient and think you come away excited about something and you're, I'm going to adopt this. I'm going to have great posture from now on and body mechanics. And then you kind of, it's easy to fall back into what was our norm. Give yourself time, small baby steps, and let each step bring you toward the next one, we tend to do too much too soon, and then we're setting ourselves up to fail. You want to set yourself up to succeed, and you do that with small incremental steps. Stretching throughout the day. Your next movement is your best movement, and you have lots of opportunities here with Harvard Pilgrim to get some stretching in with yoga and Zumba classes. So in closing, I hope you'll be thinking about your ergonomic health as a key element to your body's health. Small incremental steps, give yourself lots of time to make a behavior change. And ergonomic wellness consists of stretching and moving throughout the day. You don't have to wait until a workout. Your whole day is an opportunity to stretch, especially now that you're in a home office. I think this is a little bit of the lemonade in this awful situation, but you have a little bit more opportunity to be able to take breaks and stretch and move around. Remember that 50 rule, 50 minutes of standing or sitting to 5 to 10 minutes of movement. Try to be active as much as possible and eat well, and work toward eventually having great posture and body mechanics. So thank you. That's my presentation, and I'd love to answer any questions you might have. Okay, so let's see. Someone has asked me, okay, a brand of lumbar support. I'm not going to recommend any particular brands, because, especially with lumbar support, because that's really difficult. It's like a car, the seat in a car. It's so individual. So you've got to, ideally, I know we can't right now test them out, but buy someplace you can return, maybe buy a couple to try them out, and then you can return them if it doesn't work out for you. Somebody inherited a chair and it was too big and molded to another person, and you had to change it. So for that, same thing with a chair. It's such an individual thing. It's ideal if you can test out a chair, if you're going to buy a chair. For that tip about, this is another question. For that tip about reclining with the lap desk and footrest, any tips on engaging and strengthening the core? I did go through that, of pulling in your belly muscles and relaxing your belly muscles. That's a great core exercise. And do I have, another question is, do I have a desk, chair, or brand that I recommend? Again, there's so many chairs out there. It is such an individual thing. So I can't recommend one particular brand. It's important for you to try them. It also depends on your budget and what how much money you're looking to spend. Let's see, can I see the correct posture page again? You're going to have access to this whole presentation afterwards. Home fixes to raise a chair that is not adjustable. Ugh. Will a folded towel work? You can try that if you need to raise yourself up. Yes, you can try that. So someone asked me for the nuts and bolts of a good ergonomic chair. So this I can address without any particular brand. I love a chair that would have at least 5 adjustments on it. And what those 5 would be, besides your seat height, you want a back that goes up and down, that ratchets up and down. You want lumbar support in the lower back. I like to have a chair that has a seat pan depth adjustment, so you can adjust the seat pan. And if you have one of those, what you want is a fist distance, I'm going to show you, between the back of the knee and the edge of the chair. And so so a seat pan is this, and a good chair has a seat slider, so it comes forward and back. I like to see armrests that go up and down or in and out, ideally. So those are the 5 good adjustments that I'd like to see on a chair. Someone's asking me, my desk is too high and my desktop is, oh, someone just asked about armrests on the chairs. You don't have to have armrests. I like to float with my arms, but they're nice to have if you're talking on the phone. If you do use an armrest, you want to make sure that they're low enough. See how low these are to keep my shoulders down. If these were a little bit higher, see how my shoulders just hiked up? Sorry to keep going back and forth with the adjustment. See how they just hiked up versus that, okay? Or no armrests at all and just let your arms float and relax. Let me answer the last two questions. If you're petite and you can't have your feet on the floor, you need a footrest, okay? And those, again, are inexpensive. I'm talking under $50, $30, you can get a good footrest. I am not a fan of kneeling chairs. Someone just asked me that question. And the reason for that is if you're sitting in a kneeling chair, you're sitting like that. Look at my knee, okay? That's putting a lot of pressure on your knee. So I'm not a fan of sitting on a kneeling chair or sitting on a ball, because I'm sure someone's thinking about that question. A lot of people sit on those, they're fabulous, those big balls, but unless you're blowing it up perfectly every single morning so that your knees are in line with your hips, you tend to sink down into that. And it takes an incredibly strong core to really be able to sit up on a ball. But with that said, if you want to sit on one for 5-10 minutes, that's fine, but go back to a supportive chair. Changing your position frequently is really helpful. Yes, the question is, will correcting posture going forward fix pain already experienced from poor ergonomics? Yes, it takes a while, because whatever your bad posture has been, your muscles are used to that now. So think about that. If you've been like this and your neck muscles are used to being tight, and now you go to correct it and you're asking those muscles to relax, they're going to have some discomfort. Even though it's better posture, you're asking them to release, and they've been used to being tight. So that's why small incremental steps is so important to making any kind of change with your body. So I hope I've answered all your questions. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope this has been helpful. Stay healthy, everybody, and take care.